Hi everyone, this is Audrey Henley and this is a coffee talk. So go ahead and grab a cup of tea or coffee or chocolate milk, whatever you drink, and let's get talking. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about the writing advice to kill your darlings and why I think that is not quite the right way to think about it. The advice I would give instead would be to not be precious with your writing. The phrase kill your darlings, if you haven't heard it before, and if you're in the writing community, you're going to hear it because it's repeated ad nauseum. And I don't remember who exactly said it first, but it is sort of this tried and true writing advice that people will tell you over and over again. I think the idea behind it is to delete things in your writing that are there because you really like paragraphs or sentences that you think are really pretty and really add to the story, and then they're kind of just there because you as the writer like them. They're not there to add to reader experience. So in that sense, the phrase is, helpful to think about, but I think it could be more precise, and I think it sort of gives the wrong impression, especially to newer writers. To me, I don't think finding the things that you love in your writing the most and want to keep the most and then deleting them, if you take it a little too literally, I think that's going to have the opposite effect, because often the things that you, the writer, enjoy are going to be what people who like your writing are going to enjoy. Everyone has a unique voice and has these weird idiosyncrasies that are going to pop up in their writing, and if you like them, don't delete them just because they're your darlings, is what I'm saying. Actual criteria you want to be looking for is whether or not it adds to your story. Does it help the reader experience? And I think drafting is really for the writer. You put in all the things you have imagined for the story, you have all the banter, all the fun details, beating on the dresses, whatever you really enjoy writing, you stick it all in there. And some people overdraft and some people underdraft. I'm one of those rare writers who actually underdrafts because I find writing details very boring. I'm more into character interactions and dialogue, but I just like writing the important stuff, and actually have to go back in and fill in details, because if I don't, readers will be confused and not know what's going on. For me as the writer, I know everything that's on the page, and well, of course this is why Hayden is doing this. It's because he loves Britta, blah blah blah. You need to get things across for the reader, and the inverse of that would be overwriting, which is where you put in too many details that end up bogging down the story. And this can include backstory as well. So adding in a lot of details about a side character's past or how a city was founded, that kind of stuff. I mean, it does vary with genre. I would say adult fantasy has a ton of room for that, but if you're writing YA like me, if you enjoy writing that kind of stuff, a lot of times it's going to have to be cut later on, but not all of it. Some of those details are going to stay, which is why when you're drafting, it's perfectly okay to include that sort of stuff in there. But then revising is for the reader. So drafting is for the writer, revising is for the reader. During revision, you're obviously going to like your subsequent drafts a little better each time, but the lens you should be looking at your story with is the lens of a reader. You should be thinking about your audience. You should be thinking about genre specifications. You should be thinking about what's appropriate for your age category. All of those little things are what you should be thinking about when you're revising. Do you see how that's different than kill your darlings? You're not just going in and be like, oh, I really like this sentence, I'm going to delete it. And I think it's just a dramatic turn of phrase that people like, but it's just not incredibly helpful for writers. I don't think you don't just go in and find all the things you love and delete it like that. If that's what revision was, that'd be very sad indeed, and I would never do it. Instead, revision is, like I said, looking at it from the lens of a reader. And something you could do to help with this is to get critique partners, and you can literally see what they, as a reader, an outside reader, think of your story. The alternative advice I want to offer is to not be precious with your writing. So what this means is, if you are looking at your writing and you realize there's this scene that I really love with a side character, but I think I actually have to cut that side character completely because he doesn't add enough to the story and I need to cut 10,000 words, and this would do it easily. You just have to do it for the sake of your story. And no matter how many fun scenes, no matter how much time you put into the description of those scenes, no matter how funny the character is or anything like that, if it doesn't ultimately serve the story, you have to just cut that. I think a lot of writers, newer writers, want to treat every word that comes out of their mind and goes onto paper or on screen is suddenly gold and it's perfect, and they don't want to revise it ever because it should speak for itself and it's perfect how it is, and I don't want to change it for someone else's standards and blah 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 blah. It's just really not helpful as a writer, and you have to get out of that phase quick because you are not going to make it in this business if you aren't willing to fix your writing. You know, you don't cook and think this is just the best meal I can make, I can't make it any better. You're going to get better each time you try. You can pick better ingredients next time. You can better prepare and cut things evenly. You can cook things more evenly. Like, there's all these things you can do to make it better. And if you can do that with cooking, you could probably do that with your writing too. If you're trying to get traditionally published, I'm just gonna tell you now, like, you're not going to turn in a Word document and then they'll just print it in the book just like that. That's not going to happen. If you don't have to edit with your agent, which you probably will, you'll have to edit with your editor, do substantive editing, which might mean cutting characters, changing scenes, adding in things, all these things that are major changes. You'll have copy edits and you'll have proofreading and you'll have all these changes. By the end of the publishing process, your book is going to be a lot different. The publishing process makes you listen to experts who have worked on hundreds of books and know what they're doing and know what sells in the market, and they're going to help you create a stronger story. If you're not willing to go through that process, it doesn't matter the route you go through. I mean, there's obviously different, you know, you might have a really specific subgenre and you think it'll do better in self-publishing, but at the end of the day, you still have to go through editing if you want to have a really successful book, if you want to have a book that reads better and is for the reader. Because at the end of the day, if you are writing for you, which is totally valid, I just want you to realize that that's a journal. That's something you're writing for you, and it's for your eyes only. And if that's what you want, that's fine, but don't expect that to get published. Just because it's fiction doesn't mean it's not just for you if you don't put in the editing needed to make it for the reader. Here's a practical tip for not being precious with your writing. And I do this with every novel I've written. What you do is you have your main document. I work in Microsoft Word, by the way, but anyway, I create my main document where my whole novel is. And then I have story name _ extra. In that document, I have my outline. Sometimes I put little research links, but most of that I'll put in a separate research Scrivener document, but I might have some in there. I'll have any brainstorming I do, anything that doesn't actually end up on the page. And at the end, I have all my cut scenes. So every time I'm like, this scene doesn't work, I'm not throwing it in the trash. I'm not hitting the delete key. I am Command C, copying it, pasting it into the extra document, and it's gonna live there. It's not in my shiny, perfect little manuscript file, but it's still there if I ever need it, if I never need to refer back to it. The truth is, I go back in the extra document and grab scenes again. I have a very weird drafting process, and I'll often just like switch chapters around, which I know to some writers is kind of crazy talk. But I do that all the time, and I'll add things back in and I'll take things out. The reason I do that is I feel really comfortable because I have that extra document. It means that I can try things out, but the scene I had before is still there somewhere, and I can always go back and grab it. I've done that from the start, and I think it's helped me avoid a lot of the pitfalls I see with other writers who want to treat a manuscript like it's their baby and like it can't ever change. And I think it's probably one of the single best things I've done for my writing career. I highly recommend this. Because the truth is, you did spend a lot of time writing each and every scene. You put thought into it, and of course you don't want to get rid of it. But if you just think of it as putting it into another document, and it's not going in the final document right now, but I still have it available, I think that makes it like 10 times easier to go ahead and cut stuff that isn't going to ultimately help your story. And once you do that and you have this clean document that's not full of scenes that you're like half sure about, it reads so much better. You can go ahead and mend the manuscript now that it doesn't have that scene. You can add in new transitions, you can take out extraneous stuff because you can see it better. It becomes a lot clearer. It's sort of like when you're drawing and you go ahead and ink over your pencil drawing and then delete the pencil. Like, you can see everything much more clearly. No darlings have been killed. They've just been put in another file. This isn't a file I'm going to send to agents or let anyone read, but they're still there. I didn't kill them. They could come back as zombies and end up in my manuscript again. That is my recommendation. Don't kill your darlings. Save them in another file. Don't need to kill anything, ever, if you don't want to. I mean, if there's like a really cringy line, you could take it out just for posterity, but you can also save it. You might want to add it back in later. Who knows? Really just trust yourself, and when you instinctually think like, oh, this character kind of has to go, or like this specific scene isn't really working, just take it out, continue revising, see how it goes. You can always add it back in. That's my advice. That's the coffee talk. Thanks for coming out. Go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, do the bell thing. Love you guys. Bye.